Welcome back to the Ed Show. Big finish tonight. The Senate is expected to pass a $1 trillion spending bill while cutting aid to the poor. Now, they've reached this bipartisan agreement on a brand new farm bill. The bill's going to cost taxpayers $969 billion over the next decade. The Tea Party has been ominously silent on spending related to this bill. Big agribusiness has lined the pockets of politicians on both sides of the aisle. Meanwhile, the massive spending bill manages to cut food stamp aid for the poorest people in this country. Now, Senator Gillibrand of New York has opposed the cuts and introduced an amendment to stop them. She called out the Senate on the floor yesterday. The Senate struck down her amendment with a 33-66 vote. Now, this bill will now slash $4.5 billion in food stamp funding to the poorest Americans. These cuts will amount to about $90 a month for needy families. The Farm Bill is expected to pass the Senate later this week. I mean, there's a lot of hog here, folks. For more, let's turn to Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Senator, great to have you with us tonight. You have the floor, Bernie. What's right and what's wrong about this bill?
What's right about the bill, it ends some subsidies that go to big farmers and corporate agriculture who really don't need it. Clearly, what's wrong about this bill is that at a time when poverty is increasing in America and when half of the people on food stamps are either children or the elderly, it cuts $4 billion over a 10-year period. But, Ed, what I do want to tell you is our Republican friends in the House are planning on cutting not $4 billion over a 10-year period, but over $130 billion over a 10-year period. They are really going to war against the very poorest children and senior citizens in this country, and that's something we cannot allow to happen.
So the House is saying that the cuts aren't tough enough here, yet they're willing to line the pockets of big agribusiness. And I think you can follow the money. You're going to see people in the Senate and in the House who are advocating for this, who are recipients of big dollars from big agribusiness. Or do I have that wrong?
No, you have it right, Ed. But this is what people have got to understand. This is part and parcel of the Republican vicious attack against middle-income and low-income people. This is not unrelated. These attacks that we're going to see from the Republicans in massive cuts in food stamps is directly related to the attacks you're going to see on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and education. What the Republicans are about are huge tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country, huge corporate loopholes for corporations that make billions in profits, and then you go after working families, the elderly, the sick, the children, and the poor. And this is where we are moving as a country if we don't stop it. We're moving toward an oligarchy where a few people have incredible wealth and power, and they're going to war against millions and millions of people who are trying to hang on by their fingernails.
Senator, where is the Tea Party on this farm bill? Why aren't they screaming about this? This is the biggest piece of legislation financially that we've seen when you compare it to the automobile loan, you compare it to the health care bill, you compare it to the stimulus package. I mean, this is the mother lode right here. And where the Tea Party is silent about big agribusiness getting what they want out of the Senate.
Well, I think you're going to see the Tea Party very silent about tax breaks for people who don't need it. They're very silent about all of the subsidies that go to the oil companies and the coal companies. They're very silent about corporate loopholes. Unfortunately, what you have in the Tea Party are folks who end up representing the wealthiest, the most powerful people in this country. And, Ed, I will tell you right now, we have more people living in poverty today than at any time in the modern history of this country. You have many seniors who are facing hunger. We're seeing an increase in hunger among seniors. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. It is both immoral, to my mind, not to mention bad economic policy, to go after the weak and the vulnerable at the same exact time as you're standing up giving huge tax breaks for the richest people in this country.
And, you know, this is where I have to call out some Democrats on this. How in the world can they support the cut in food stamps when we have got the economic condition for the lower tier income earners in this country, just as the number that you just stated? I don't get it. But it's going to happen. It's bought and paid for in many respects. Senator Bernie Sanders, great to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much.
With you.
That's the Ed Show. I'm Ed Schultz.